Thighs.
We're here.
It's thighs.
We're here. It's boobs. It's thighs. It's boobs. It's thighs. Welcome to American Sex Live. I'm
Sunny Megatron. And you are?
I'm Sunny Megatron.
I'm Sunny Megatron.
Are we already doing a scene? Welcome to Anatomy of a BDSM scene. Mindfuck happening now. I'm Sunny Megatron. He's Ken Melvoinberg. Did I just ruin the scene? Did I non-consensually ruin our scene? I don't know. We'll get there. But yeah, that's what we're talking about today. To give you a quick preview, we are talking about how to put a kinky scene together, assuming that you know your skills. Like, we're not going to teach you how to use a flogger. We're going to teach you how to make it a nice story and please yourself and your partner or partners. But before we get to that, let's do the ball washing, which is our housekeeping. First of all,
my balls smell terrific. I just bathed.
Oh, cool. Nice. I was going to tell you how my balls smell, but I don't have balls that are in a drawer over there made of silicone. Anyway.
But they're washed.
They're probably a little dusty. They're in bins.
You got dusty balls?
I do.
You and me both, sister. I'm at that age.
Anyway.
That's my drag name.
Well, we are.
Dusty Balls.
Okay. We know somebody named Dusty Balls.
I know.
Oh, okay.
I'm stealing their name.
Oh, okay. Okay. We're sexuality educators, pleasure advocates, and we're kinky perverts too.
And we're married.
We're married. We're also, you couldn't fucking tell.
And we're high on pot news.
Shut up. We are also the hosts of American Sex Podcast that drops every Monday on all the podcast places like iHeartRadio and Pandora and Spotify and all those places. Apple. Who's our guest this week?
Waffles.
Oh, we learned this week about pelvic pain, and I actually really geeked out on this conversation. We talked to an educator, Sophia Wiseone, and I was amazed to learn how many people with penises have pelvic pain during sex. So go listen to it. But this, our Wednesday night live stream, is completely different content than our recorded podcast. We always talk about different stuff. Sometimes we have guests. We try to make it a little more actionable or visual. So welcome. What else do I want to tell you? Oh, yes. If you're here on Get Vocal, you may know I see a lot of familiar faces. We are part of a Wednesday night lineup of a bunch of shows about sex, dating, and relationships called The Connection Zone. So we're in the last slot. If you just tuned in now, come next week early and watch some of the other shows. In addition, there's all sorts of other themed nights. Like tomorrow is True Crime Thursday. There's Fandom Friday, Tasty Tuesday, all sorts of stuff. So check out the other shows here on Get Vocal. If you like the content we give you, and not just here, but everywhere, I would say almost 100%, with very few exceptions, almost 100% of the content that we produce, we give to the world free. Absolutely free. We think these are important conversations that everyone needs to be having, and we don't want finances to be a barrier. But that also means that we're kind of like PBS or NPR. We need the people with the resources to kind of help us keep going so we can provide the content to the world. So if that's
we don't ask for it for a month. We do it for 5 seconds.
If that's you, we have a Patreon. Go on to patreon.com/American Sex. And I'm actually going to paste a couple of links here in the chat. Oh, speaking of in the chat, you might be watching this on Periscope, which is Twitter, YouTube Live, or Facebook. And if you're like, I didn't see anything pasted in the chat, what the hell are you talking about? Well, you have to be on the Get Vocal platform to get all the perks of what's going on tonight. So to be able to see the chat and communicate it with us in the chat, to pop on camera and become a part of the conversation, you can only do that at Get Vocal. So whatever your platform you're on, the link that you click to get here should have a hyperlink that'll take you straight to the Get Vocal platform. Come on over and join us. We also have an after party. After the simulcast is over, we stick around, and that's when it gets interesting. If you don't see that link, go to bit.ly/, what is it? Sunny Get Vocal, SUNNYGETVOKL. And Adams.
Thank you, Sugar Daddy.
Yes, Adam's our sugar daddy, and he's right on cue. If you really are digging what we do and you're in the Get Vocal platform right now, in your chat, you see a little blue diamond. If you click that, it enables you to give us V coins. So it's a little tip, buy us a little coffee, a little something. So you can do that
But
as
your
well.
tongue. We don't get coffee anymore. We don't get to go out to Starbucks. Stop pretending we do.
No, but we can buy a can of the name brand coffee instead of the Walmart generic
coffee shops.
I know. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank
Yay!
you, Rachel.
What else do I have? Oh, my
I
phone
miss Starbucks.
My phone just shut off. Thursdays, blah, 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 V coins. I think I covered it all.
Are all the balls washed?
All the balls. These balls are
clean.
So as I said, today we're going to be talking about the anatomy of the scene. And this really isn't like a formal class that we teach. It's sort of bits and pieces of different classes we teach. So it's kind of going to be teaching and kind of a conversation. Like, we'll see how it goes. We don't really have a plan. I mean, we have kind of a plan, but you know, it's conversational. Anyway, so a lot of folks, when they first get into BDSM, or even if they've been doing BDSM for a long time, a lot of people come upon a creative rut. Like, it's either A, how do I really put together a good scene that me and my partners are going to enjoy? Or B, I've been doing this for a long time and I have tried everything and I need a little more inspiration to think of some new things. So hopefully this conversation will help both of those situations. Where do you want to start?
Let's start with the type of plays that we do, and let's start with SSC and rack.
Okay, cool.
And you can do that.
Okay. So before you really get into planning any kind of scene, you know that there's a lot of prep and negotiation and considerations that you need to do. And so we're going to go over all of that first. The first thing is to have a grasp on how you're going to approach your BDSM. There are two main schools of thought. Granted, there are more, but I'm going to go for the most popular. SSC, which is safe, sane, and consensual kink, and RAC, which is risk-aware consensual kink.
And I have one really quick side note on this. All the stuff that I'm about to talk to you guys about is going to be from the RAC perspective. That's pretty much how Sunny and I play, I think, most of the time. So
SSC stands for safe, sane, and consensual. And that's sort of, in one way, a given, and also in one way, very misleading and maybe impossible to carry out. So when you're playing, you want what you're doing to be safe. Okay, that sounds reasonable. But also, how can you guarantee 100% you are going to be safe? You can try, you can prepare, you can, try to foresee any pitfalls, but sometimes shit happens. So it's not safe walking out your door. An anvil could fall on your head, right? You could be Bugs Bunny. So is it possible to be safe? What?
I have a side note on this.
What?
That it has to do with gaming.
Okay.
Which is kind of interesting. So a lot of us here are gamers, tabletop role-playing gamers, and creating a scene is like DMing a D&D group, in that what you're doing is you're getting this set up with all of these different things. You're doing background on the NPCs, the non-player characters. You're designing this adventure, but the thing you don't ever know is how the group of adventurers is actually going to respond to all of your plans, because they never, ever, ever do. As soon as you think that they're going to take the big clue, they steal the bus and they go to McDonald's.
Exactly. So you need to be prepared for the unexpected. You can plan things out perfectly, and you need to be flexible, because your submissive could surprise you with a reaction that you didn't expect, and it could completely change the feel of the scene, and you need to be prepared for that. So we did safe. Sane, that's a loaded term. What is sane? Is that even, we're bordering on ableist here, that's very debatable what sane is. Consensual, though, that's non-negotiable. We always go with consensual. So some people play by the tenet of SSC. Other people say we're more RAC players, which is risk-aware consensual kink. Risk-aware sort of takes the safe part out of it, meaning risk-aware, you're going to talk everything out with your partners as much as you can. You're going to lay the groundwork. You're going to make sure that you know your technique inside and out. You're going to do all the planning you can, but you are both assuming responsibility that something could go wrong. No matter how hard you prepare, something could not go as planned, and you are prepared to deal with that together, no matter how the chips fall. So you're assuming some risk, even though you're trying to be safe. So that's the risk aware part. And that's how Ken and I play. A lot of people who are edge players, and edge play is when you're doing stuff that is a little bit risky. Maybe it's knife play, maybe it's choking play,
blood play.
Yeah, that sort of thing. You're on the edge of
we like the
risk.
risky stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, not for everybody. It's not for everybody, but it's something that I think we definitely get a bigger thrill out of.
Right. So if you're an edge player, you are most likely a rack player. Again, there are some other acronyms that people have adopted along the way, but they're not as widely used, and we only got an hour. So those are the two main ones. Yeah.
So next thing we're going to talk about, you guys, is how do you come up with the idea for all of this stuff? Now, anytime that you are creating a scene, you're going to have a beginning, a middle, and the end. The beginning of the scene is what we're going to be talking about right now. It's looking at data fields. It's taking a look at rack and SSC. It's doing things, and we're going to talk about our rough BS system, which I think most of you are familiar with, and the yes, no, maybe lists. But all of these things combined are what we do ahead of time. So we really take a look at what all of the risks are that we're going to be doing and sort of mitigate that to the least amount of danger with the most amount of fun. Now, Grandpa's got to take his spectacles off here. The first thing that we should know is that when we're negotiating a lot of this, the negotiation can take place in two parts. There's active negotiation and there's passive negotiation. Active negotiation is when you sit down and you talk with somebody, you make a list like the rough BS system, the yes, no, maybe list. Passive negotiation is where you start taking a look at data sets about that person. So for example, many of us are on the website FetLife, fetlife.com. In that website, there are things that people publicly display about themselves, how they identify as far as like, are they like a leather daddy? Are they a puppy? Are they a master, a mistress, submissive, cuddle slut? Like no matter how you define yourself, that information is there. Something also that's there is what are your interests? And this is a huge amount of data because it tells us exactly what that person is into. The longer that list of like into, you know, the
into giving, into receiving, or everything to do with it. Yeah.
But like you're going through and you're putting, I have a foot fetish. I like leather. I like latex. I like science-minded perverts. I like gentlemen who are not gentlemen. Big boobs. Whatever your thing is, there is an interest group for it, and there is an interest for it, and there are also groups that people belong to, and that says, something slightly different about people, I think, than the interests that they have. What I mean by that is when you take a look at people's groups, that is sort of like, it's like on Twitter or on social media, as opposed to something that they are 100% behind necessarily. Not everybody, I don't think, is behind. Like if they just do a thumbs up as opposed to a heart, they're just like, I'm paying attention. I understand.
Right.
I recognize this thing. And that's what some of the groups are. It doesn't say this group defines everything about me, but I have a slight interest in it. So I'm going to take a peek into this world.
Right. And really quick, I pasted in the chat. Ken briefly mentioned our rough BS system and our yes, no, maybe list, which he's going to be talking more about. I have the link pasted in our chat. If you're not watching on the Get Vocal platform, get on over here, click the link and wherever you're watching, and it should take you to Get Vocal so you can get that link. It is also bit.ly, bit.ly/BDSM YNM for yes, no, maybe.
So, you know, as I was saying, when you're doing this sort of passive negotiation, what you're doing here is you're just really becoming a student of the person you're going to be playing with. And I think that that's absolutely critical, that you are students of each other. The more that we know about the partners that we're playing with, we know what's going to turn them on, what's going to turn them off, what things are going to make them hard or wet or excited. And all of that is really important information. And like, I don't know of another website other than FetLife that really has all of that on display.
Yeah, I want to say, is it Whippler? It's one of those, I think.
It might be Whippler or like one of the other ones. But like, needless to say, You can find out people a little bit just by paying attention to their social media, see what they comment on, see what they post, see what they like, see what they don't like. And all of that is important information because it's, the more that you find out about them, then the more you can ask them better questions when it comes to this next part, which is the yes, no, maybe list. Now, that's a really simple list that we have up at sunnymegatron.com, and I think Sunny put a link in there.
bit.ly/BDSMYNM.
And what it does is it lists a bunch of different either sex acts or fetishes or kinks or things to do with sexuality. Oh, thank you, Desiree.
Hi, thank you.
So all of these things, when you take a look at them, are things like it'll just say anal sex, leather, latex clothes, and what you have to determine: cock sucking, oral,
electric play.
Play.
I want to say there's over 100 things on there, and you can add your own.
That's limited because there's probably well over 1,000 different things you could ask. But what you want to do is take a look at who your partner is and ask the appropriate thing. But obviously you don't want to start asking questions about anatomy they don't have. That would just be ridiculous. So what we want to focus on is the things that you don't know the answer to. So
can I just clarify real quick? So the yes, no, maybe list, basically on that list of things, you go through and you put, yes, I'm into this.
Just about this.
Oh, you are? Oh, okay. I thought you were moving on.
No.
Go ahead.
So, are you high on pot news?
No, I thought you were moving on. So I was like,
no, I'm not moving on yet.
We forgot a thing.
No,
okay.
I didn't forget a thing.
Okay.
I was just about to start talking about. So as Sunny mentioned, what you do then is once you get the list out there, you want to do, is this something I want to do? Yes, no, or maybe. It's the maybes that you want to pay attention to because there's not a black or white answer to any of that. And that's the things that people genuinely are feeling explorative about. So I think we all sort of get that, is that you just go through the different things that you want to ask and put the things that you really want to do, especially if it's something that is something that makes you aroused, if it's something that you've never tried before, if it's something that you really want to try. Make sure to get all the things you want to do on the list just to see how your partner responds. But don't be upset if it's something that they don't like. There are times that I might want sushi and I say, hey, Sunny, do you want to go out to eat? Let's get sushi. I really like it. And she's like, no, I feel like pizza. That doesn't mean she hates the sushi. It just means she feels like pizza now.
Right.
So next, now go ahead.
Oh, and also your maybes,
yes, maybe.
Those are the springboards for discussion. So maybes are usually well, I'm willing to try that, but maybe only under certain circumstances. So then that is an opening for you to sit and talk with that about what are those circumstances? Why is it a maybe? So yeah.
So after you do that, then you're going to be going into the rough BS system. Now the rough BS system is each one of the letters in this stand for something that you're going to be rating between 1 to 10 on how much you like this thing. 1 would be that really sucks. I don't ever want to do that or have it done to me. A 10 means I like it, do it a lot. And keep in mind, you can do this either from the top side, the person who gives the thing, or the submissive side, the person that has the thing done to them. So the first thing is that the letter R. So on a scale of 1 to 10, it stands for how much do you like to be restrained by other people. The O is how much you like to be owned by another person. U is how much do you like to be used by other people. Or how much do you like to have other people use your pet, depending on what you're saying there.
From a top or bottom perspective, depending on who you are.
But generally, this first part is geared more towards the submissives than the tops, but you guys can just inverse it for the tops.
Right.
The G is how much do you like to be given away to use for other people, and that can be either a service-oriented thing or a sexual thing, or just this, this is my submissive's ass. You may hit my submissive's ass with these 5 things, and that is it. But that's one of the things that you can negotiate with given away, is that it can be a particular body part. It doesn't even have to be a whole person if that's something that is a sensitive issue with you and it makes you feel wonky. All of these things are just rules of thumb that you can adapt to, and adaptability is the key for building a scene in all aspects, whether you're designing it, whether you're getting it done to you. Being adaptable is what makes us a keystone species, and it's also what makes BDSM fun, because you just never know what's going to happen. And this is why I think we're risk aware, is that sometimes frames don't hold up and they collapse. Somebody gets hurt, and that's nobody's fault.
And also, too, these negotiating tools, and he'll go through the rest of them in a second, are also conversation prompts. Just like the yes, no, maybe list. It's not like you're both going to fill this out and exchange it like a magazine quiz and you're done. Like restrained. If I say, oh, on a scale from 1 to 10, I like to be restrained, number 5. Then you talk about, what does that mean? What do you like to be restrained with? Maybe you're not into rope and you like cushy, pads. So they're all conversation prompts to talk more.
Or, like one of the other options is like Sunny and I are very good about thinking outside the box and about using alternative practices. So like some people might not consider like being wrapped up in saran wrap very tightly is a great form of being restrained, but you don't have the traditional, like you're not tied up with rope, you're not like on, have leather restraints on your arms and legs, you don't have leg spreaders on or anything like that. But all of this take with a grain of salt. Next thing is, so we were on the G that's given away. H is humiliation. How much do you like to humiliate people, or how much do you like to be humiliated? And we have entire classes on this subject. You guys have, I think most of you have heard our feelings on this, but just keep in mind that like humiliation is very nuanced and has many levels. It's not just about calling somebody fat and stupid and ugly. It's about getting something. The word humiliation comes from the Latin root humiliare, which means to ground or to bring to the earth. So many times it's you can use humiliation in a variety of ways that are actually helpful, not harmful. Next is B, how much do you like to be physically beaten by another person? This is about impact play, things like caning, flogging, punching, slapping, all that sort of stuff. Spanking, let's not forget our spankos. And then S is service. How much do you like to serve other people? Now, after you have done this, we start with the risk assessment. So now you have a good idea of what everybody is into, what you can do, like once you have some ideas here. So Sunny, why don't we have a hypothetical example to go forward?
Can I jump in with one thing before we move ahead? In all of this negotiation, one thing you're going to want to talk with your partner or partners about is your use of safe words, and if you are going to use them and what they're going to be. So oftentimes you will hear educators say, you must always use safe words. What is it? Our episode of Unpopular Opinion. You don't always have to use safe words. And here's what I mean by this. If you are doing consensual non-consent play, where a no could really mean a yes, and it's part of your role play, absolutely you need safe words. But let's say you're just doing a sensual scene where you're rubbing ice cubes across somebody's back and you're not participating in consensual non-consent. So a no is always a no.
Everything you can use safe word.
Right. You can use no, don't do that, a little to the left, not so hard, do it harder, that sort of thing. You are absolutely welcome to use safe words. And in one instance I do recommend is if you use the graduated safe word system, which is like the stoplights, red, yellow, and green. I like that because it gives feedback. Green means I love this, do it more. Yellow means, oh, hey, you're getting kind of where I might want to stop, don't go any harder. And red is stop. So especially if you're playing with a new partner and you want to facilitate communications, I recommend using those types of safe words because they can be really helpful in your scene.
Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do here is you have to ask yourself, so you have a couple of ideas here about where you want to go forward. And you need to see what are the factors of risk that we're going to be doing this. So let's see that you have decided that you're going to be doing a little bit of role playing, some oral on each other. You're going to be doing Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker cosplay or like role play with each other for sexy time. And then you're going to be doing some oral sex and some spanking. So that's the three things that we're going to be doing is role playing, Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker, sorry.
Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, father, son.
Okay. No, but in the day and age of the internet, are you sure he's not the stepfather? Can we say that? Is it against the terms of service?
So so one of the things that we're doing here is we really want to start taking a look at risk assessment. We take a look at the physical, the psychological, and the emotional risks. Now, the physical risks are the first and foremost thing that we need to take a look at, because that's a combination of two things. The submissive's health issues in combination with what are we doing in this that is a physical risk? Are you suspending somebody from a hard point in the ceiling? Are you like putting somebody up on a St. Andrew's cross and there is their arms are being stretched for extended periods of time? They're laying down flat and maybe they have a C-spine problem and they're like, you have to watch out for the back. So the first thing is that you need to do is you need to talk, if you're not intimately familiar with this person, you need to find out, do you have any health issues? Now you start with the big ones. Do you have like heart issues, diabetes, low blood pressure, high blood pressure? Are you pregnant? Do you have seizures? Or neuropathy is another big one. And then like you don't have to go through the whole list of everything in the universe, but then just simply ask them, are there any other major health issues that I should be aware of? Because if you have somebody with cerebral palsy, they may have a particular physical tic or something that happens when they're happy, or when they're sad. So you have to ask, like, what are the things that are involved with this, with your health risks? If there's somebody like me that has diabetes and seizures, there's two things that you would need to know, like maybe have like a little glass of orange juice nearby if I'm, if my blood sugar is a little bit too low, or some protein if it's a little bit too high. For my seizures, just make sure that if I have a seizure that like you don't have anything hitting my head and you're aware of what I need to never, ever, ever stick anything in the mouth of somebody having an epileptic seizure. That's just a wives' tale. You don't put a wallet in there. That's my biggest fear in life. It's the reason I have Waffles. Waffles will bite your head off.
And Waffles is this dog. He's not. I feel like if you haven't been, if you're new and you're like, oh,
why is this guy
he puts waffles in his mouth. What do you know?
Waffles? Wait, he puts waffles out to keep people away?
It's a service dog.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And he's looking at us. He's right here, aren't you, buddy?
And thank you, Desiree and Jesse.
Oh my God! Thank you, Desiree. Thank you, Jesse. So health issues. The other thing is you just want to kind of go through them with the physical health. The next thing that's equally important is psychological and emotional health. You want to make sure that, because like all of us today have something, like there's always somebody that has a little bit of an issue, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, but it's just very important that we deal with that. So if you have PTSD, which is very common amongst people in BDSM, post-traumatic stress disorder, that you learn how to deal with that in your particular way. The way that people handle PTSD, there are some commonalities there. I'm not going to go through with the treatment of PTSD right here, right now, but the people that have it will tell you what to do if they get triggered by a certain event. So for some people, it might be like, don't wear Drakkar Noir, which is a good advice for almost everybody.
I lived through the 80s. That's one of my triggers. Like, you know how many assholes wore that?
And many people say today Axe is the equivalent. But like, so you don't wear the Drakkar Noir. That's one of the things. Also, like, don't get up and scream in my face. Don't say a certain word to me. Don't be aggressive and angry in a way that I'm not expecting. So you really want to talk about the consent behind these things, because not everybody is the same, and you have to like tailor stuff to the individual.
Right.
The next thing that you want to be aware of is just emotionally. How are you both doing that day? Are you like, even though you might have been planning this for weeks, it's even more important in the time of COVID, because our opportunities are fewer and far between. So when you are about to have a play date, you want to make sure with your partner, hey, how you feeling today? Like, are you up for this? Do you have enough spoons to like do this? You do? Great. Oh, you want your ass beaten more? Oh, awesome. Let's do that. Yeah. But you have to ask, and it has to go both ways. And you can't be like retaliatory against a submissive who is feeling any certain way, because both dominants and submissives are both humans. We have feelings, and we have to check in with each other. And I think even more so these days, that emotions and mental health are more important than protocols for BDSM.
Yeah. And I just want to reiterate that as you're going through the health issues, mental health issues, none of these things mean, oh, you can't play, or, oh, this is wrong with you, so you can't. Not at all. It just means this might indicate that you need to make special accommodations, or be aware of certain things, or be prepared for if certain things might happen. That's all.
And so when you're deciding what your scene is, you also want to talk to each other just real briefly and just give this the thought of a Nigel.
It's a cat.
Sorry.
We don't consent.
Not the thought of Nigel.
We don't consent to you scraping at the door, Nigel.
We do not consent to that, Nigel. Go fuck off. Piss off, cat. All right. So the one thing that you need to ask yourself is like the thing that every corporate board should do. They should have a 5-year-old and say, is this inherently a stupid fucking idea? And just ask yourself that, like those exact words. Is what we're about to do a stupid fucking idea? Not like, will we look silly, but like, if you decide to suspend somebody from a hard point through an O-ring by their nipples and then hit them back and forth like a piñata, that's something, this is something we've seen people do. Or can I suspend you with barbed wire? Which was, now.
That was actually pretty cool.
Can you talk about that for just a minute? Talk about that scene.
Oh, wow. So we went to, it was an event in Michigan that we taught at, and there was a play party in the evening. And one of the big, I guess, attractions for the evening was somebody was going to do a barbed wire suspension bondage. And we were just like, what the fuck? Like, we had never heard it. We were very excited. Like, I can't wait to see. It was not as like, holy motherfucker, are you guys like out of your minds as I thought. It was very sensual, very slow. Yeah, there was little blood. They took a lot of, like, so many precautions. It was like, what do you want me to say? It was great. I was very taken aback because I did not know what to expect. I thought, even for me, like, whoa, this sounds too dangerous and too like, how can you account for whatever might happen? And it went really well.
And just a side note here, like, so the people that were doing this were a longtime couple that have done this numerous times. They're great sex educators. And I want to say at least one of them was a medical professional. Like the one that was having it done to her was an RN. I think she was an RN, if I'm not mistaken. And they had the gloves, but like, this is the thing about barbed wire suspensions. It is inherently risky when you're doing something like this, and both parties are going to get cut. It's like not a question. You are going to get cut.
It is a blood
wrapping
play
the wires.
scene.
It is a blood play scene, and you're going to be using barbed wire with your hands. At some point, you are going to get cut with that barbed wire, whether you're the top or the bottom. Now, inherently, is this a stupid fucking thing? It's a risky thing. This, I wouldn't say, is a stupid thing, because at first they had to ask themselves that. Then they tried it and found out, you know what, this isn't as risky as we initially thought it was.
But I think there's a caveat based on their experience, based on their knowledge, based on all of the work they had to do to get there that we didn't see. Like, how long have they been practicing this? How long, it was their thing by the time, we saw them do it. So it wasn't like the first time or anything, but I don't think it was a bad idea for these people. It was definitely risk-aware consensual kink, but would it be a bad idea for like that couple standing in the corner to be like, never tried this? All right, that would be
barbed wire and some gloves, and
that would be a bad idea. So again, I think it's circumstantial.
Yeah, but like, let's say you worked on a ranch or you work on a farm and you know how to handle barbed wire and you look into how to do this. If it's something that you research and you feel that you can safely do this, that you have to ask yourself, is the risk that we're going to get worth the payout of doing what we're doing?
Right.
So the next thing you're going to do, and this is about safety. So like, you've asked yourself the question, is this a really stupid fucking idea? And you've said, no, this isn't a really stupid fucking idea. Maybe it's a minor stupid idea, but not a really stupid fucking idea. And it's slightly risky. So you want to make sure that you have all of your stuff here. So you want to like double and triple check everything. And I'm being literal about that. If you're doing something, if it's a spanking scene, you don't have to double or triple check anything. You know what to do with a spanking scene. I don't think anybody thinks that that's inherently risky. But if you are doing anything with cutting someone, if you're doing something where sterility is going to be an issue, you want to make sure that things are sterile. You want to make sure that they're safe. You want to have double and triple checking your carabiners. If you're suspending somebody, make sure your hard points are indeed hard points and not like termite eaten like soft points that you had no idea. If you got something mounted into the ceiling, you know what? put as the top, hang from that for a minute with an O-ring and see if it holds your weight, because you want to check the stuff like that. Even the best sex educators in the world have accidents. You just never know. Like I've like there's been times when we've done there was one time in particular where I remember we were doing a scene at a dungeon I owned in Chicago, and we were doing the beginning of a rap suspension. And I know that like when you are when people are losing their blood pressure, one of the things that we have as EMTs is those blood pressure cuffs that go around the legs, the leg cuffs, and that forces all of the blood into the upper portion of the body so that the body can sort of maintain its, you know, the blood pressure that it needs to. But you can get the same effect by wrapping somebody up with saran wrap, and if they're perfectly healthy, it might cause them to actually pass out because they're getting a sudden rush of blood into the upper portion of their body. We did this at a time when we were playing loud music at a dungeon, and the person, as they were getting wrapped up, we couldn't hear them saying red, red, red. But this is one of the reasons why we have what's called a somatic safe, where they tapped us twice. And if somebody can't hear you, you have a somatic safe word, which is like something that is a physical one. Twice means red, and it means I need to get out of this. We looked up, saw that the person was ready to pass out. We got our EMT shears, got it up, and they were fine. But it's something that could have been bad if we hadn't proceeded and had that extra little bit of safety.
And I just have to break in here for a comment. Is I agree with you, Maurice, when Ken said that you're like risking sterility. My brain went, are someone's balls going to get chopped off? Are you going to scramble someone's uterus? Are they going to be sterile? Then I was like, oh, you mean sterile environment. Okay.
Sterilize the cooties, not the person.
So me and Maurice are both like in the same fucked up.
Sterilize the cooties,
I don't know.
not the person, not that kind of sterilize. Yes. Although I have to admit, I've been involved with some of that kind of play too.
Yeah. But,
that's like the special rubber bands that they used to castrate cows with.
Okay.
All right. So you've checked all of your health stuff. You've got med kit, EMT shears, your cell phone, gloves, cleaning supplies, condoms, like stuff to clean with, and all that sort of thing. Next thing you need to know is what do we need to do to actually create the scene? So we're complete with our beginning of the scene, which means that we have negotiated, we have consent, we take a look at all the ideas that we have, and we know that, like, after doing the yes, no, maybe list and the rough BS, that we want to do Star Wars role play with one person being Darth Vader, the other person being Luke Skywalker. We want to do some spanking, and we wanted to do some oral sex. So those are the three things that we had in mind. So we have our condoms for the oral sex. We've got our spanking implements for the spanking. We have our costumes for the Darth Vader, and those of you that are anti-maskers, which I'm hoping we don't have any here, if you want to play Darth Vader, gotta wear a mask.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah. So basically, you know, your scene, like a look ahead of what we're going to do. Your scene needs to have a beginning, middle, and end, like a story. And it needs to ramp up in intensity for some kind of crescendo or climax. And that climax could be literal or not literal. And then you need to end with aftercare, which that's another thing you can negotiate, and we'll get there. And then it's important that after that, you debrief with your partner at a later time when all your endorphins and your body chemicals and your neurotransmitters are back at baseline, to have a conversation about how did that go? You know, what were the strong points? What were the not strong points? If you played a scene that was more along the rack, that risk-aware consensual kink, maybe did something not go as planned? And there's stuff you have to talk about because maybe it didn't turn out to be a great scene. So that stuff you need to plan, you know, after the day that you play at another point in the future. So that's kind of what we're looking at right now.
So just a little bit more about the middle. Now, the middle can be just about anything that you have negotiated ahead of time. Sometimes it's going to be pure sex. Other times it's going to be a scene, which is like a negotiated BDSM like exchange between people. Sometimes it just might be suckling at somebody's tits. Sometimes it might be we're puppies and we're like rolling around in a puppy pile, or we're kitties, or like I'm a kitty trainer and you're like the cool kitty that I'm training.
And I also want to reiterate, and if you have gone through negotiation process and you've looked at the yes, no, maybe list, this would be more clear. But just to reiterate, BDSM scenes do not always have to involve sexual contact.
Not at all.
So make sure that that is also part of your negotiation.
I've had in fact, I've had quite a few submissives that were asexual. They just like really wanted to be spanked or restrained, or they wanted to be a maid and they wanted to serve people.
Yeah.
It's the sensation of it. So when you're doing this middle part, the middle part is actually playing. It's the actual play is the middle. And what I like to do when I go into any sort of a date or a play that I'm going to be like doing a BDSM scene is have what I call my 5 things that I want to accomplish while I'm there. So oftentimes it would be like and I do like involving sex sometimes, and sometimes that there is a sexual component. So there may be like, all right, I want to have a little bit of role-playing exchange, dress up as these characters. That's one thing. Second thing would be the next part is like we try to force that conversation into an uncomfortable position where maybe Darth Vader has advantage and Luke Skywalker has disadvantage. The third thing would be that oral sex is going to happen, and then yelling happens after that because I like to yell a lot and berate somebody, and then punishment would be the 5th thing. So like and that's just how I operate. I like to have 5 things in my head when I do a scene. Then I talk to the individual about what they need for aftercare, because it's so subjective and so different in every person. Some, like I've had some submissives that wanted to be an object when they were done. They just wanted to disassociate completely and just be my ottoman. So I would be done with the scene. I would get out a cigar or a pipe, use them as my ottoman, kick back, relax, have a stogie, and just hoist my feet up on them. Other people I've had that just needed constant cuddling. Some people just want to be left the fuck alone. Other people like, and you know what I'd like to hear from everybody here with aftercare. And by the way, tops need aftercare too. It's not just for the bottoms. I need to be hugged when I'm done. I need to know that I wasn't a real fucking prick. Mean that I caused some sort of psychological damage, and a way for me to get that affirmation is to touch and to hug coming back, to know that I was a good daddy, a good master, a good trainer, and that what you felt was what you wanted, and you knew that I did this scene for you and I wanted to do what you wanted to. And if I did bad, let me know what that means. But like withholding that aftercare is something that's devastating to me personally as a top. Now, the other thing about the aftercare situation is that it does need to be discussed exactly what both people need, and that is also the third part of it. This is the end, is like what happens with the aftercare. And I want to get some examples, not from the other people out there, the examples that stick in your mind of more extreme or unique things that you've seen people do as aftercare.
Oh, Desiree! Wow.
Well, thank you, Desiree.
She's showering us with coins. And
so go ahead.
I was gonna say, while you type in that, I was gonna talk about something.
Okay, so yeah, just like start typing in there, guys, like aftercare of scenes that you have like witnessed before, or things that you like to have. I'd like examples of what people have done or have seen at parties that is unique aftercare. And Sonny, like, can you mention any that you have seen?
Like being an ottoman, or being being ignored, being left alone. There are some people, they're like, don't fucking talk to me. I want to leave. I don't want to talk to you. Which to a lot of people that seems like extreme, but that's what some people want. It just.
I had one submissive that their thing was like, they must have just watched. This was a long time. I've been in BDSM forever, right? And this was just after the Blair Witch Project came out, the first one, and they like to be like put into a corner. And I would, like, at the time I owned a witchcraft store, and I would make that Blair Witch symbol. Want to symbol as they were put into the a horror with the with the care portion of
that's it. Fun. A little bit about tapping into your role play, or finding, like, if you're really heavy into playing a character, or maybe you want to pursue a certain type of role play that your partner does. Really quick, Marisa, sadly, I've not really gone to parties or seen much. For me, I'm totally to the internet. The page
we're
isn't. We're still recording. I think we're back. Can y'all hear us?
Are we back?
Can
Yay.
you
Okay, we're back.
hear
Yes,
us?
Adam.
Okay. That was weird.
I think our internet went out for a second. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
Just know if we're ever, by the way, so if those of you that are on our Discord, if we are ever out and lose internet, I was just ready to go into the Discord. I will communicate on our Discord.
It's probably better to communicate on like Twitter. Because a lot of people I don't think are okay. That's fine. You can communicate.
For those of us that have Twitter, that's great.
But I'm here on my Twitter.
If I'm communicating,
Okay.
I'm doing it on Discord.
Okay.
This is a husband-wife thing. Like, yes,
Yeah,
Discord
exactly.
is what we're going to be doing, not the Twitter.
We're back.
Fuck
Anyway.
Twitter. Fuck Twitter.
So where did we leave off? Okay. If let's say you want to do a role play, you want to do age play. And your partner's not into it. They're like, I'm not into the age play. It's just not. You're like, I really want to do that. I really recommend that people drill down to their core. Like, what do you want to get out of it? Like, if you want to do age play because you want to escape and like have fun and have no rules, or maybe being nurtured or that sort of thing, you can think of another type of role play that will satisfy that for you. So maybe it's pet play. Like maybe if your partner's like, I'm really not into age play, they might be like, but you can be a puppy or a kitten. That's cool. Or maybe you can be, someone, maybe you like to do age play because you like to get all the attention, and you're kind of bratty and like, I want what I want. You have to give it to me and adore me. Maybe you can do worship play where they're worshiping you. So just because you have a certain role play that you're like, I really want to do this and your partner doesn't mean you can't compromise and figure it out. One of our favorite sexuality or BDSM educators is Midori, and I love her definition of kink. Her definition is it's childlike play with adult sexual privilege and better toys, which is like, hell yeah. And if you've heard us teach, you've heard us talk about how much we value the spirit of play in our BDSM and our scenes. So that's really something. I'm not going to go through all the it's in past recordings. I'll dig some up, all our BDSM stuff on here. You can hear us talk in depth about it, but adopting the spirit of playfulness, that give and take. If you are somebody who is into improv, if you know the improv world, one of the biggest exercises is yes and. Like someone's like, I'm a chicken now, and you're like, yes, and I'm a farmer. And so embody that same spirit in your role plays. However, there's consent. So it's yes and or no, but. So you give an alternative. Embodying those little exercises from improv can really
You know what my
help you
favorite
out.
one is?
What?
But who knows?
But who knows?
But
Yes.
who knows?
But who knows?
But who knows?
Another thing that again, props to Midori.
Oh,
We
is this
took
the,
one of her
the
classes.
role-playing?
We took one of her classes in Chicago a few years ago. And one of her techniques that she really likes for emulating or for coming up with a role play is emulating your favorite scene in a movie. So like Ken, you had Darth Vader.
And
Yeah.
Skywalker.
A lot of people are like Rey and Kylo Ren. Like
That's
there's
huge. That's
like,
huge right now.
so and you think about like, okay, I want my scene to be like you're embodying the spirit, like, she's scared and they hate each other, but there's this sexual tension. Like you just embody that vibe. And when you describe it by a movie scene, you know that vibe. I could say, okay, let's do a role play scene and I'm going to be the cheerleader and you're going to be the high school jock. But that tells me nothing. Am I a prude cheerleader where I'm like, no, Jake, no, I don't think we should? Or am I the slutty cheerleader that's like, hey, get the rest of the football team over here? Just because you've come up with a certain role play doesn't mean you've come up, like, let's say, me and you,
there are no more football players or cheerleaders. We're the
I know, but we're
terrible example.
Pretend.
So let's play mutant and evil
No,
overlord from the desert.
You're messing up my example. So like, if I'm the cheerleader and in my mind,
AKA mutant,
I am meek and shy and I'm a church going cheerleader and I want the football coach or the football coach, that's a whole nother thing, whatever, the football guy, I don't know sports, to like kind of force me to do dirty things. And that's what I have in mind when I'm like, hey, Ken, tonight let's play cheerleader and football player.
No.
And he has in mind, oh no, when you say cheerleader football player, you're the big slut who's gonna want to like get tag teamed by the entire football team. And then if we meet and I'm like, hey, and he's like,
I hate that whole analogy.
Well, whatever. It's a very easily understandable example, Ken.
Okay,
but we're not really going to do it.
We have very important Star Wars news today. Did you hear what it was?
What?
That Donald Glover has been hired on to do a Lando Calrissian series. So, like, what I would like to see is Donald Glover as Lando Calrissian in a sex scene with anything or anyone else, because he's pansexual and just fucks everything. Aliens, tentacles, women, men, capes. And he has a huge collection of capes. So like I think that's a great one, is like it's Lando Calrissian and anyone else.
Oh my god. Yeah, I like that.
He's Lando Calrissian, tentacle creature. And
funny. Other people, but not to Ken. And
Ken.
Sorry. And hanger. Up. We have never had these kind of problems, but guess what? Broadcast is still going. There's an internet god. Why would it let these? Maybe we're in a consensual, non-consent scene. This is not consensual. We're in a non-consensual.
Just Ethernet cord, one of the two.
You know what? I only used the Ethernet cord the last 2 times all year. I've never used the Ethernet cord.
Like, windy day, Ethernet
right,
cord.
It's my fault.
We're not plugging it in yet.
It's my fault. Anyway, where were we? Ken?
Lando Calrissian.
Okay.
I was done.
Oh, what next?
You next.
Oh, okay. So, all right. I have one little exercise before we go. Let me get it for you.
That thing for Sophia Wise, one person.
What are you talking about?
Or Firewoman.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Okay. So I recently taught a class about role play, and
Look at Maurice.
Yes, and came up with a feelings-based role play. So, like I was saying, oh, we could be a cheerleader and football guy, but we don't know the feelings behind it. Like, what do I want to embody? Yeah, Ken didn't turn off his phone. So I came up with this little exercise, which I kind of like. So instead of coming up with like, here is the character I want to be, you can come up with the feelings that you want to go after in your role play and devise a character after that. So I pasted this in the chat on Get Vocal. It's basically, it's like a fill in the blank. I am, and it's an adjective, and I'll give you examples. I want to be insert a verb. It's like Mad Libs, like role play prompt Mad Libs, by someone who is adjective, so I can feel and whatever state of being. So, for example, some of the examples, I am entitled and I want to be worshipped by someone, a man, who is inadequate, so I can feel powerful. And so this would be a typical like femdom scenario, like a female supremacy scenario. And then I have an optional because, you may not know the because, but like this one is, this is a dynamic that rarely happens. Like I'm in charge of, the stereotypical patriarchy or the man. So I want to just like give it to him. It could be, now this one is pretty common, like with consensual non-consent. I am innocent. And maybe the church-going version of a cheerleader. I am innocent because I want to be punished by someone who is violent. So I can feel an emotional release because I never had the opportunity to grieve, something that's happened to me like that. That's like a very therapeutic example. Or I am bratty. I want to be catered to by someone who is firm, but then gives in, like the daddy who tries to be the daddy, but then I'm the brat and get away with whatever because it's fun and silly.
What church has cheerleaders?
No, but like if I grew up in a Midwestern town and
church going, I thought this entire time I'm
imagining like Jesus, yes,
yeah.
E-S-U-S, Jesus died on the cross for me. Yeah. No.
That I would get down with.
Oh my God. So hopefully this inspired a little.
You would be a prayer leader, not a cheerleader.
Oh God, no. Hopefully this inspired you.
J-E-S-U-S, J-E-S-U-S. Go,
give me a Jesus. Jesus. The Father, Son, and who? The Holy Ghost. Okay, I need to stop. Anyway, hopefully this gave you a new perspective. Whether you, like we said, are new to constructing BDSM scenes or you've been doing it for a while and you just needed like, I need to see things through a new lens and inspire my creativity. Wait, forget the plumber customer. Hello, Mr. Mrs. I've come to check your signal strength. Totally. We need a fucking internet repairman scenario right now. See, we got Desiree tipped us for our cheerleading. Thank you. So come back next week. I think we're going to have a guest next week. I don't know who yet. Again, it is Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Pacific every single week for American Sex Live. I'm Sunny Megatron.
I'm Sunny Megatron.
He's Ken Milhoinberg. And if you are watching on one of the simulcast stations, hopefully you still are with all of our like, go dark, now we're back, it's fucked up. Come over to Get Vocal because we're going to stick around. We're going to chit chat. This is when things get weird.
J-E-S-U-S, J-E-S-U-S.
Get weirder. This is when things are going to get weirder. We're going to stick around for a while for an after party. The simulcast stations on Facebook, Periscope, and YouTube are going to shut down, and you can only hang out with us on Get Vocal. So click that link wherever you're watching, or come on over to bit.ly/SunnyGetVocal, SUNNYGETVOKL. And thank you all. Jeebus.
Jeebus. J-E-B-U-S.
No. Okay. Bye, simulcast, folks. Stick around.
Fucker.
Stick around. Get Vocal. We're gonna party with y'all.